Okay, everybody, I see our attendee group is populating. I will post this recording later on today to IFU's YouTube page, so that is where you can find it.
Okay.
Matt, I'm all set. I don't know if you want to get us started or.
All right. Christina, thank you very much. And I want to welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for this press conference. We're doing this in webinar style. It is recorded. So any members of the media, please use the Q&A. You can put the questions in the Q&A, and if you would identify your outlet, and then we will share those questions with the four of us, and we'll answer them as best we can. We are also available later. So if you reach out to Christina, and I'll have Christina put her email in the chat, and you can reach out through Christina to schedule any interview follow-ups with us as you'd like. We're not all available all day long, but we will be as flexible and responsive as we can throughout the day and even later than this as well. So welcome everyone. And today we are talking about the end of the enhanced premium tax credits with the Affordable Care Act. We are four farmers from Iowa. We are all Farmers Union members, and we are all using the Affordable Care Act, both present and into 2026. So in 2026, nearly everyone using the Affordable Care Act health insurance marketplace plans will see additional out-of-pocket costs because they're losing some or all of the tax credits that offset the cost of their premiums. Republicans in Congress are refusing to extend the enhanced premium tax credits. Today is the last day of signing up for the Affordable Care Act for 2026. While most Americans agree our healthcare system isn't working, the idea that making health insurance premiums higher for 24 million Americans as a remedy is outrageous. Increasing our out-of-pocket costs for premiums by as much as $20,000 a year is a gut punch to working families and a growth killer for our nation. That impact on growth is felt especially hard for families without access to employer-based health insurance. The Affordable Care Act provided a path for small businesses, entrepreneurs, and farmers to pursue livelihoods that didn't require having someone work a job for the health insurance benefits. In 2021, the enhanced premium tax credits helped get more families covered by health insurance. That meant farming families could take the risk of farming harder by leaving a job to expand the farm. Maybe that meant bringing a son or a daughter back into the farming operation. It also meant rural Iowans could start a business or go out on their own to contract with a company in a big city while remaining in their rural community. Remember the days when the farming family had to have an off-farm job for health insurance? Because Republicans are letting these enhanced premium tax credits expire, we are headed back in that direction. We don't disagree with Senators Ernst and Grassley that something needs to be done about out-of-control costs of healthcare. But by letting these enhanced premium tax credits expire, they have done nothing to bring down costs. What they have done is raise the costs for Iowans, including family farmers and rural entrepreneurs, by thousands of dollars. We're now going to tell you what this means for the four of us. And so to start with, I'm going to turn it over to Beth Hoffman. She farms with her husband in Monroe County, and I'll have her tell you more about her farm and her journey in the last few weeks navigating the Affordable Care Act for 2026. Beth, go
All
ahead.
right. Thanks, Matt. Yeah, so as Matt just said, we raise grass-finished beef and goats here on our 570-acre farm in Monroe County. And we had been using the extended benefits to have the subsidized rate, but really for us, it was about we were at the under 400% of poverty level line. And what was really great about how it had worked in the past before the end of these credits was that it was a little bit of graded a graded system after you pass that over 400% of poverty level. So what this means is that if we had made more, if we were successful as a business and had made more, sold more beef, then it would have not been like a cliff that we would fall off of. It was like a gradiated scale where we would pay a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more towards our health insurance. So now, because it's like a very hard and fast, like you cannot pass, if we make $84,999, we get the credit. If we make $85,000, we literally fall off this cliff. So it would go from something like $300 a month, excuse me, to a plan that we would then owe retroactively like $16,000 for the plan. So more than like something like $1,200 a month for my husband and I. So what we decided to do after a lot of thought is go back enrolled in this the Wellmark bronze plan, whatever. I think that's the right term for it, because it's still a little bit more expensive than we were paying. But if we get to that point, we didn't want to upgrade our insurance and have a smaller deductible, because then that would start getting into the like $20,000 a year that we would have to retroactively pay. So we decided to go with the really pretty crappy insurance that we had before. With it was a $7,000 deductible. Now it's an $8,300 deductible each. So, we could be out of pocket very easily, like, the same $16,000. But last year I also had the situation where for a chronic condition, I decided to go to the Mayo Clinic and the insurance was denied for it. Not only was it denied, but they wouldn't even count it toward my deductible. So that became like an extra $5,000 payment that we had to pay on top of everything. But luckily, my health is fine. So I guess the choice that we made was like not to go into a doctor more often and to just deal with all the issues you might have with your health. And this in a nation that has some of the top healthcare in the world, right? I can't access it now because I'd have to be paying this deductible. And plus, I might add that like there's not really any doctors to go to. I've been trying to find a new primary care doctor, and everywhere I call, nobody is taking any new clients. So, it's not really just a farmer issue. This is a rural issue, I would say, is that we just are not only not being supported with having good insurance options, but we also really don't have many good doctors to begin with. And now if that becomes a harder burden on our hospitals and clinics, it's just a downward spiral. And there's not many options for good jobs that would then give us better health insurance. It's not, the manufacturing has been closing or slowed down where my stepson works. So, I'm also a reporter. I've traveled around the world to report on agriculture, and it feels like a lot of like impoverished developing nation kind of scenarios where you have farmers in extreme debt because of health problems, because of buying seed, because of equipment problems. And those people are just in this cycle of debt that no one can get out of. And I just feel like, here we are, the United States of America, this great this great healthcare system, this place where we have some of the most wealth in the whole world, and yet we are like, an Indian peasant that I've seen in the countryside. So it's very disturbing on many levels.
All right. Beth, thank you very much. We do have some questions in the Q&A. Please keep putting them in there. We're going to go through our panelists, and then we'll address all of those questions as a panel when we get done. So thank you, Beth. Seth, if you'd like to introduce yourself. Seth Watkins from Southwest Iowa, Page County.
Hi, I'm Seth Watkins. I raise beef cattle, sheep, and bees in Southwest Iowa. I have started slowing down in my farming operation. I may be the last generation to farm. Maybe my daughter will. Uh, I guess what we're facing, Beth did a really good job with the numbers. We're in a similar situation as a family. We're looking at our premiums going from probably $600 a month to $2,300 a month for the bronze plan, and we're seeing our out-of-pocket expenses go from 7,500 to 9,200 per person, $18,400 max. So quick math on that, that's looking at about $43,000 a year for healthcare. Um, Similar to Matt, maybe as you know, I can work on my income a little. I can't this year. Uh, and and I guess that's the part I struggle with a little bit. I mean, I'm really lucky that I can probably navigate through this a little bit. But I'm all of a sudden there's $25,000 a year less that I've got to spend. I I think what really has been bothering me is in my farm, I've never asked someone to do something I wouldn't do myself, and I've always tried to put myself in the other person's shoes when I negotiate or work on things. And honestly, I think a lot of people don't realize that farmers and independent business people buy our own insurance. And I hear our politicians talk about us being the backbone of our economy, and yet the people doing this that are making these decisions have great benefits. Um, I'd like them to put themselves in our shoes and understand what this is like. If you're, if you're the Secretary of Agriculture and you make $100,000 a year in Iowa and you get full benefits on top of that, take a walk in our shoes to what it feels like when you're going to lose $40,000 of your income and provide for your family. The other part that I think I really want people to understand, it's not markets or weather that'll put me as a farmer out of business. It's a catastrophic health issue. And this is something I lived through when my wife still taught. So, my wife was a teacher, and when our daughter was born, uh, she had a lot of complications from birth defects. And some of those things we had to pay out of pocket because we had to do some experimental surgery, but we had her great insurance, and that carried us through many surgeries. And, my daughter's doing great today, and I'm very proud of her and thankful for that. But we spent a lot of time at the Cincinnati Children's Hospital with her because that's where our specialist was. And I met another family out there who didn't have as good insurance, and their son um, had some kind of cancer. But what happened at the end of it, in their situation, that family lost their son and their farm. And these are the kind of things that we're facing, and these are the kind of decisions that are being made. And I don't think they're considering the impact that they're doing to small business farmers, any of us with this. The other part I thought about is everyone talks about HSAs as a great solution, but if you do your taxes properly and listen to your accountant, if you don't have income, you don't put money in an HSA. Or a family in Iowa, median income family in Iowa that makes $60,000 a year, after they pay those premiums, which might not be significant, but they're out-of-pocket expense, they don't have $10,000 a year to put in an HSA. And to just assume someone can do that it's just not who I was raised to be as an Iowan or as a citizen of this country. So uh, we're going to navigate the first year at my house. Then we're looking at other options. My wife is getting closer to 65, and that changes some things for her. But, I never thought I'd be seriously looking at healthcare for myself in Mexico because it makes more sense than using local healthcare. And the other side is, let's be honest, if we're doing this to families across the state, some people just aren't going to be able to pay the bills. And they're going to go to our local hospitals and they're going to get care. And then that debt will have to be accrued by the local hospital. And that puts a burden on it also. And it's not the family's fault. I mean, none of us want to turn away a sick person. But the reality is no one's thinking this thing through if the solution is simply to do this to citizens of this country. That's all I got.
All right. Seth, thank you. Thank you very much. Again, we've got a couple of questions that we'll get to in the Q&A, and keep putting them in there if you have follow-ups. Um, Now I'll introduce Aaron Lehman. He is a Polk County farmer, but he's also the president of the Iowa Farmers Union. He testified last week in a Senate subcommittee. He may reference that. There's a question already about that in our Q&A, which we'll get to. So Aaron, please go ahead.
Well, thank you for being here, everyone. Again, I'm a fifth generation farmer from northern Polk County, and I grow corn, soybeans, oats, and hay. And my family and I are farmers because we love to grow things to feed our neighbors and to feed our communities and to feed the rest of the world as well. But all this is getting harder because for my wife and I, our healthcare costs are about to double. The Affordable Care Act has been one of the best investments in rural healthcare in decades. For farming families, for entrepreneurs, for employees at small businesses who don't offer health insurance as a benefit, the ACA has expanded coverage, lowered costs, and encouraged rural Iowans to take more risks in developing our farm operations. Our members, all of us on this call and all around the state, are telling us how important the ACA has been. KFF, a leading healthcare organization, estimates that 27% of our sector, the farm sector, relied on individual ACA coverage in 2023. This is impacting thousands and thousands of rural Iowans. And what we know about the rural economy is it only grows when people are willing to take risks and to make investments. The ACA has provided certainty and affordability in the health insurance marketplace for those who are working without an employer-sponsored health insurance. So my family having access to the marketplace insurance policies has been a must because the affordability provided by the enhanced premium tax credits and make our budget doable. My wife is a breast cancer survivor. Without the Affordable Care Act, she likely wouldn't have even been offered an insurance plan because of her pre-existing condition. Because of the Affordable Care Act, when she was laid off later because of downsizing, she was able to keep affordable insurance and go back to school to get a higher degree. Now she's an independent contractor and she's a passionate care provider for elderly and other people in need. And she still has access to coverage. And that allows her the flexibility to help on the farm during our busy seasons because we know that we're covered. And for the farm, it has allowed us to do a lot of things. It helps us have a budget that allows us to fix and replace our aging equipment and to bring new innovations onto the farm and to explore new market opportunities for what we grow and to take smart steps to bring the next generation, my son, onto the farm. All of this is economic activity that's really important for our rural communities. But if the enhanced premium tax credits expire, the cost to our farmers will be deep and it will cave in family budgets. And as we mentioned before, our rural hospitals and clinics are already struggling with Medicaid cuts and very tight margins and a very thin labor market. Without the ACA for coverage for many rural Iowans, our hospitals and clinics will struggle even more because they're going to be providing care for many more people who will not have any coverage at all. So extending the support for the enhanced tax credits would benefit farmers and all of rural Iowa. Our farmers are already facing low prices because of trade tensions and increased input costs, and USDA programs and offices that are struggling to help farmers due to massive cuts. Our farmers right now are meeting with their lenders to try to find a plan just to get next year's crop in the ground. The last thing we need right now is an increase in healthcare costs. So with that, I want to pass it back to Matt. Thank you.
All right. Aaron, thank you very much. And I'm just going to give before we go to a couple of questions, for an example, that last year, or this current year, our family of two, I'm full-time off the farm, Pat is full-time on the farm. Because of the ACA, we were able to work this way. I left US government as part of the Biden administration, so I had the federal government insurance. Knowing that I could get an ACA plan with the enhanced premium tax credits allowed me to think about what I want to do next. And what I ended up getting to do is being the executive director of the Iowa Farmers Union. And the Iowa Farmers Union is a small organization in terms of an employer. We do not yet have a healthcare plan, but we've been able to recruit people on a part-time basis, some contractors. We only have one full-time person. The ACA is making it available for an organization like the Iowa Farmers Union to recruit good talent in rural Iowa, right? And that's the same for businesses all across the state, not just in rural Iowa, but we're speaking specifically about rural. So in 25, our out-of-pocket cost was $6,605. For the same plan next year, we're under the 400% of poverty, but like Beth, we're right there. That plan next year is $9,133 out-of-pocket cost, with the enhanced tax credits going away because we still have some of the tax credits. But if we make a little bit more than $85,000, if we were to maximize and go to $90,000 of income next year, we would lose all of our tax credit, and our cost would then be $23,437. So at $90,000 for a family of two, which is not a bad income for rural Iowa, just one of these plans would be 26% of that income. That is greater than our mortgage. It's greater than all of our other insurances, significantly like almost more than double, right? All of the rest of our insurances put together, which are already high. So that's the impact for family farmers, but it also applies then to, entrepreneurs and rural business folks across the state, whether you're rural or urban. Now, getting to some questions, I want to start with Chris Clayton from DTN. I'm going to read the question. This is to you, Aaron. Aaron, what surprised you most about the hearing you participated in last week, and do you feel it accomplished anything?
Yeah, it was an honor to be invited to speak before the Senate subcommittee, and I was very glad that I was there because we had 6 people who testified in the committee, and those get chosen by the majority party and the minority party. There were 2 of us that were trying to bring the perspective simply of ordinary working people, and I thought that was a very important for us to bring that perspective. I was very grateful I was there because I was able to share what was happening on our farm, what was happening in our rural communities, and I was happy that to see that of the people on the committee, even though this has been a very polarized issue, we did have one member of the subcommittee who crossed the aisle and voted to keep supporting the enhanced tax credits. So I was very happy that I was able to participate in that regard. I do think that it's what was eye-opening is that for some people on the committee, they chose to take this as an opportunity to make points on those who are testifying, rather than trying to learn from the expertise from people who are on the ground in the field from around the country. So it's disappointing that the issues have become polarized. But again, it was a great opportunity to share what's happening here in Iowa and what's happening on our farm. And I do think it makes a difference. I think the more attention we bring to this issue and its impact on individual farms and on our farming community and on our rural communities here in Iowa, every opportunity we get to talk about it brings more light to the issue and hopefully brings more common sense to the issue.
All right, thank you, Aaron. Another question from Laura Bellin at Bleeding Heartland. She says, House Republicans are expected to vote this week on a stripped-down proposal that, among other things, would let self-employed people and workers in small businesses band together into larger groups to buy health insurance. Can any of the farmers address how this concept would or would not help them? So I'll respond to that first and let others if they want to. So this is really interesting. That is a fix into the future, right? And so this is the problem with Republicans, and I will call out Representatives Nunn and Miller Meeks and Feenstra and Hinson. Those are futuristic things that we need to address. But none of that can happen by January 1st. So if that's their plan to address what we're facing with the expiration of the enhanced premium tax credits, then they're basically saying, you're on your own for 26. Deal with what's coming. And we've got this plan down the road because there's no way you can put that together in time for us to not be paying these exorbitant premiums, particularly for those over 400% of poverty. And think about who are the farmers that are over 400% of poverty. They're the 2,000 acre corn and beans farmer. They're the 200 head cow-calf operation. These are the middle, the agriculture of the middle. Those are the farms that are trying to be full-time farmers or significantly, maybe scaling back from off-farm income to grow their farm. These are the farms that are going to be hit with the $23,000 a year. And so this futuristic thing it's great. Let's talk about that, but it does nothing for what we're facing right now and what we're facing by midnight tonight when this window closes. So if any of the other farmers want to respond, please do.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. You hit that point really well. I want to reflect a little bit on the previous question too. Many of the issues that were brought before the subcommittee in Washington are things that we need to work on. Concentration in the marketplace for healthcare, dealing with monopolies. Those are all issues, but it ignores the fact that the calendar is going to strike and it is going to cave in families' budgets now. And yes, we need to bring attention to those long-term issues as well, but it makes no sense to try to say that is the solution to something that is going to hit people in the face immediately.
Yeah, I also wanted to just say that, there's a question here too about what we're cutting back on. And if what we're cutting back on is making more profit so that we can stay under the 400 above poverty level, then how are we supposed to then include some new plan for our employees, which we would love to do? We actually looked into that idea. What if we were to, form a group plan with our employees? Because that's something we can already do, but it's way too expensive. It wasn't even anywhere near any of the ACA plans, period. So that was just not even an option. And I want to add too that some of the group plans, like the Farm Bureau has a group plan that they gained an exception to the ACA rules, right? So they've been having this plan for years, but they can do things that we already tried to get away from, like not insuring you for existing conditions, or having your insurance suddenly triple in the same year because you went to the doctor and had some kind of catastrophic problem. So I think that's a lot of that idea is going back to what we already know doesn't work.
Right. Thank you, Beth. And if anyone else, if not, I'm going to jump into the next question from KETV Newswatch 7. Right. So Madison Perez of Newswatch 7. What sacrifices have you made or are thinking about with your business in order to have health insurance? If anybody wants to jump on that.
I guess I might look at that, and I think it's a great question. It's what's the impact on the rural economy when you suck $25,000 per family out and ship it somewhere else? That means, certainly we're not going to go to our favorite local restaurant once a week. We're not going to trade pickups. We're going to keep, I'll put another 100,000 miles on my pickup. I'm not going to improve equipment. You figure out it's needs and wants. And in a state that's close to, if not dead last in gross domestic product, I would think we would be doubling down on figuring out ways not to export our hard-earned dollars to other areas and keeping them local. Again, that's that disconnect that I'm baffled by. That doesn't make sense. So yeah, I mean, it's any family with belt tightening, and we're all doing it, but it's not just the belt tightening. Let's face it, that's less money we're spending at home.
Now, just
And
add the other,
Iowa does not need that right now.
yeah. The other thing that we're cutting back on is getting health care, right? Like we're not going to go to the doctor is because we can't actually now afford it. So,
All right. Thank you. Now I'm going to go to Cami Coons from Iowa Capital Dispatch. The question is, how does the recent USDA aid package fit into this issue? Do you think farmers will end up using this money to help cover the jump in premiums rather than the gaps in farm income?
That money's already laundered and spent to the people that supply us. It's already left Iowa. If it stays in my bank account for a day, it'd be a miracle.
Yeah, I think Seth hit it on the hit it right on the head. It is the package, which we don't know yet what it's going to mean because we haven't seen the rates yet, and how it's going to impact Iowa producers. We know won't come close to touching the damage that farmers have experienced through chaotic trade policies, and it will. Yes, it's right to try to help farmers because this has been a situation that they have had no making of their own, and we want to try to help farmers who are put in this terrible situation. But right now, farmers are trying to negotiate with their landlords, with their input suppliers, with their lenders, trying to figure out how it's gonna all piece together just to get to next year's crop. So having to report to your lender, hey, in addition to not knowing what the payment is going to be and having all this, the cost of production being the cost of what we sell being way below the cost of production. Now we have to figure out our healthcare issue. It's making for some incredibly difficult conversations. And I think we're seeing it. I think our folks who run our helplines for farmers here in Iowa and nationally are reporting a tremendous uptick in the amount of stress calls. And it's from all sorts of reasons. It's because of trade, it's because of USDA closures, it's because of all those other things. But I think a huge amount of it comes from the stress of dealing with how am I even going to pay to get health care?
Yeah, the worst scenario that could happen with that money right now is if it comes in the last week in December and you can't get it spent fast enough to pay your bills, you could be in a horrible situation. That money could literally come in, your check might not go out fast enough pay for inputs, and your income goes up and you get a double whammy and you're just, your insurance goes up and all your expenses go up. It's just, yeah.
And
it's not what you think it is.
Yeah, I believe the farmers, the Farmer Bridge Assistance, I think is what it's called. So we're supposed to find out by the day after tomorrow, the 17th. Or actually, we have to report our crop history for this year by the 17th, and then before the end of the year, they'll tell us what the payment rate is, and then we'll get the money in before the end of February. But to Aaron's point, we don't know yet what that formula looks like. $11 billion is going to row crop farmers across the country, but we don't know what those payments are going to look like. So very hard to plan. But it was very interesting last week that as on Monday that was announced that the $12 billion was coming, that on Thursday the Senate chose to not allow the enhanced premium tax credits to go forward, and the House hasn't acted yet either. So in the same week that farmers were being, given pass-through money to their input suppliers and their creditors, they were also being then hit with these steeper premium costs, but also all the rest of America as well, right? So it was a strange situation where because we were farmers, we were maybe getting something, but then as we're part of the rest of our rural communities and our businesses, that we were losing those resources in the enhanced premium tax credits. So it was a very strange week last week, and now as we get to the end here, where we're closing off open enrollment. So the 6 weeks that I've spent navigating, figuring out, and even over the weekend, I was back in making sure, running the numbers. That all comes to a close tonight, and then we're waiting. We're waiting for our 6 members of Congress in Iowa to either leave us hanging out there or to advocate for us come January 1, and that window's getting really narrow.
From what I've read too, and my feelings about it is like, we're talking about payments of kind of like, this bridge payment is literally supposed to bridge from one other payment to another government payment. And it's not at all like focused on solutions and what we could possibly like, how we could improve farming, or we could improve our local rural economies. Whereas everyone, all of the small business people, farmers included, are telling the government this healthcare situation is an investment in our rural communities. This is part of a solution that is maybe not the ultimate solution, but it's an investment. Whereas it's not just kind of like, oh, here, hold on until we give you another payment. And that's, none of what they're doing in terms of trade and commodities and the lack of trying to diversify crops here, like none of that is working towards a solution, in my opinion. It's just kind of like, hey, just keep on hanging on, farmers, and do just exactly what you do, and just wait. Like at some point, something might shift that is beyond your control. Whereas if we could actually invest in our own farms in the way that Matt was talking about, by having this help with not paying everything out to health insurance, we could actually be advocating for ourselves and innovating our own field.
So I want to be respectful of everyone's time. I thank everybody for being here for this conversation. It's been recorded. It will be available. But I do want to give one last call out to any members of the media that are on, that have follow-ups or that want to still put a question in the Q&A. We will give just a minute for any to do that. And then we'll just kind of end with a few last comments. I'll turn it over to Aaron and Seth and Beth if they have any final comments about the situation we're in, and then I'll look again for final questions, and then we'll close this down. And those who weren't members of the press that joined us, thank you as well. And appreciate your support of the Iowa Farmers Union. We're a farmer member organization, and we have a membership process for both farmers and those who want to support farmers. So happy to work with anybody that wants to be a part of our organization. So Aaron, Beth, Seth, any final comments?
Well, I'd just like to reiterate, right? The Affordable Care Act works when farmers can invest more in their farm. The Affordable Care Act works when we can take good steps to get the next generation onto the farm. And it works when rural people can freely move to jobs that are more beneficial to their farm and to their family. So all those things tell us that these investments we make for affordable policies with the Affordable Care Act are very worthwhile.
Honestly, I just think that, to build on what Aaron said, sick people aren't good for our economy. And the Affordable Care Act has made a huge difference, both in our ability to grow our economy, to create opportunities, but also to simply get in and get that preventative care and the things you really need so things don't get worse. uh, as a nation, we've got to figure this out
And
for
Seth, there
everyone.
was a follow-up question for you, the size of your family, if you could just mention that
Oh,
again.
yeah, sure. So a little more dynamic. We're a family of four. And the reason my wife retired early as a teacher is our oldest son has special needs and lives with us. So, and that muddies the whole health insurance waters a little bit more, um, and not in a good way. And then my daughter is 21. She's in her third year at Grinnell and is a great student. So, family of four is what we are. And the irony of how this works because of Spencer having special needs, he has to take Medicaid, and always has, even when we had, my wife's insurance for him. And that was a whole frustration, but it's also a case that when we factor, we're based off income on a family of three, even though we're a family of four. So we have to have it's even harder to hit that number for us.
Right. Beth, any final comments?
I guess I'd just say that, I don't think anybody here is saying like the Affordable Care Act and everything was like perfect and, we should never touch it and do anything with it. But it's sort of like the baby in the bathwater concept of like, let's just throw everybody in the deep end and see how it's all going to work out. And I just think it's such a short-sighted concept to not feel like our nation's health, as Seth just said, like the people in our nation's health isn't our top priority and isn't worth investing in. And that just, I think it's a shame for a country with this kind of wealth that we would be making that decision.
All right. Well, with that, I'm going to close and say thank you, everyone. I think to summarize, the Affordable Care Act, as Beth said, not perfect, can be improved, but where we're at right now, cutting off the enhanced premium tax credits, big blow to family farmers, to rural communities, to all Iowans that do not have access to Affordable Care Act or do not have access to employer-based health care. Everybody, almost everybody, maybe a few exceptions, but nearly everyone participating in the Affordable Care Act healthcare marketplace plans on January 1 will be paying from hundreds of dollars a year all the way up to more than $20,000 a year. So everyone's impacted, particularly farmers that are above the 400% of poverty are going to see that 20,000 plus costs for health insurance, losing from 10 to 12 to 15 to $20,000 on an annual basis. So that's the situation for farmers here in Iowa and across the country. But as we've said, this is not just a farmer problem. It's a problem for 24 million Americans, but farmers are very much a part of that. 27% of farmers, ranchers, and agricultural managers, typically considered the farm operators. 27% of us are using the ACA plans. So with that, thank you, everyone. And I think Christina will end us.